siya gumina, Dr. Alderado, na imbaga bigat yung amin. Before I talk about the map collection, I would like to give 2 points to show that art, culture, humanities, philosophy, cultural heritage are essential to being human. So this will be a very easy paper, and I will also read a short essay on meditation on the bangko, because the bangko has disappeared, but I think if you meditate on the bangko, we will find out a lot about our being Filipino. So, I have the texts here. You can get the text later if you have a USB. So, the desire for meaning. There is a French saying which goes, "Culture is like jam. The less one has of it, the more one flaunts it." Some people who observe this rule will be the hardest to convince that culture, art, philosophy, the humanities, and cultural heritage are essential to being human. All these so-called, quotation marks, luxuries are as basic to a human life as the air one breathes, the food and drink one nourishes oneself with, and the lodging one dwells in. For as we have been reminded time again, human beings do not live by bread alone. They also live by meaning, which literally means direction, sense. Beyond need, human beings desire meaning, and to cite the eminent philosopher Ricoeur, I quote him, "What we lack the most is indeed justice, certainly love, but above all else, meaning. The meaninglessness of work, the meaninglessness of leisure, the meaninglessness of sexuality, these are the problems to which we awaken." End of quote. Art, culture, philosophy, the humanities then bestow us with meaning. They give us a sense of self-esteem. They keep us human. Culture, taken here in the broadest sense, refers to any human experience insofar as it leaves traces. It covers human achievements on the technical, social, economic, political, intellectual, moral, and artistic levels. These human achievements are expressed in the forms of tools, documents, monuments, actions, like rituals and liturgies, and works of art. These form actually cultural heritage. On a more dynamic level, culture is constituted by concrete values that make up, to quote Hegel, the very substance of the life of a people. Superficially, these concrete values are manifested in customs, traditions, and institutions, but more profoundly, they are revealed in the creative core of a culture, that layer of images and symbols comprising the basic ideals of a people. To be cultured, then, is not to be set apart from other people. It is to be connected, bound to other people, to all humanity, in the solidarity of what is human. But then again, what does it mean to be human? It is to be in the world with others and for others. It is to take seriously the fact that although I am immersed in matter, I somehow transcend it. I am, after all, an incarnate spirit, a freedom that must joyfully consent to necessity. To be human is to be constantly aware then that matter is the necessary slope of the spirit. To be cultured then is to promote incarnate spirituality. To care for the material is to assure the growth of the spiritual. To be concerned about the environment, like creating sidewalks, plazas, parks, is to be interested in the world of the spirit, to fight the ravages of time by preserving the traces of the past, like restoring buildings, paintings, and archives, is to broaden the realm of the spirit, which includes memory and hope. The irony, of course, is that many of us do not realize that to literally remember the past is to open a future of many possibilities, concrete possibilities, which may even be of an economic nature, because after all, culture is economic. If one understands that capital is not simply monetary, but symbolic and cultural. There is such a thing as cultural capital, just as there is a psychological income. There may be a difference between honor and honorarium, but the former is just as palpable a value as the latter. It is the lack of appreciation for the symbolic cultural capital that has made our tourism lag behind countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore. An anecdote is in order here. Back in 1991, my friends in Europe signaled to me the availability of the 1734 Murillo Velarde map. Yes, the one with the side prints of the Filipino Nicolas Bagay de la Cruz at an auction in Frankfurt. Immediately, I mobilized my efforts to get a dozen alumni to contribute 50,000 pesos each to raise the needed amount to bid for it, until I got severely chided by no less than a Jesuit historian who reminded me, why was I thinking of purchasing such a luxury, quotation marks, such a luxury item at the time of the Pinatubo eruptions. Happily, that one map could have cost at the most 1 million. It ended up in Hong Kong, where it was bought by a Filipino in the corporate world, and recently Mel Velarde bought a second copy of that famous map for 12 million at an auction. Such a way of thinking is of the same simplistic view that would not hesitate to sell the treasures of the Vatican Museum in order to distribute the proceeds to the poor. The same argument is used by Judas to lament Mary Magdalene's frivolity in pouring a bottle of perfume on our Lord's hair. It is to miss completely the intimate intertwining of the material and the spiritual. What makes us unique as human beings is our sense of the fragility of the incomparable, a sense of beauty grasped from the vulnerability of things. What makes us truly human is the illumination enveloping us when the world reveals its here and now, when time quivers in its poignancy. To be human is to have a sense of the ephemeral, It is to have the acute consciousness that it is thus, here and now. Perhaps Gerard Manley Hopkins experienced this when he asked, and I quote, "To what serves mortal beauty?" And immediately he answered, and I quote, "See, it does this, keeps warm men's wits to the things that are." To finally see that something is so beautiful that one can at last die. This is what art, culture, the humanities keep reminding us, and that is why they remain essential to the poignant journey of being human. My second point about the bangko, because I think if we start collecting what we hardly notice, like the bangko is gone. This happened already in the early 90s. Okay? Stopping in Santa Fe, Nueva Vizcaya, I simply knew what had to be done while my sister haggled with the tindera over the prices of Chinese pechay, Baguio beans, cabbage, potatoes, and papaya. I suddenly noticed a primitive-looking, weather-beaten, scarred bangko. It measured about 4 feet long, and without hesitation, I lifted it, and hugging it tightly, I pleaded with the tindera to please sell it to me. I offered her 500 pesos. Stunned, she refused so feebly that in a second, my brother-in-law, interpreting this as her tacit approval, loaded the minimally shaped bangko into the car. Once ubiquitous but now in danger of becoming extinct, it is opportune to tease out the meanings of the bangko. It poignantly brings back the memory of the good old times when we were simply being happy together, as the song goes. Truly, the Pinoy, the bangko emerges as a relic reminding us that for as long as we can help it, we Filipinos really never want to be alone. We also do not take to carrying our own bangko except literally, as in the saying, "Huwag mong buhatin ang iyong bangko." So, interpreting the bangko then, the bangko for me is an icon of sociality, narrativity, and solidarity. First, sociality. Never meant for only one person, the bangko offered rest to standbys in front of sari-sari stores. One took its presence much for granted during family meals, baptismal gatherings, birthday parties, wedding celebrations, and funeral wakes. Many counted on its welcome comfort at basketball games, benefit dances, gambling sessions, fiesta masses, and town ferias. Of course, one could always have it for oneself if no one else was around, to recline on it for a quick siesta, or even pose one foot on it while sipping one's bulalo soup. A sure sign, according to my friend, the late culinary critic, Doreen Fernandez, that when one did this, one was really enjoying one's meal. With another person, one played a game of dama or sungka on the bangko, or simply flirted, even danced on top of it, as they do in some regions. But the bangko is not only an icon of sociality, but it is also a haven of narrativity. All the stories that the bangko can recount if it could only talk: adolescent sexual exploits, basketball commentaries, kanto chismis, macho jokes, moralistic narratives, aswang stories. If inside the jeepney passengers behave like passive spectators who watch without looking, people seated on a bangko find it difficult to ignore one another because sooner or later they will be swapping their stories and slapping one another's backs. And by dint of recounting their experiences, they will also have shared their lives, even themselves. It is no wonder then that a certain bond gets shared by those who are benchmates. And at the Ateneo, there is a peculiar bench culture. Your identity comes from the bench your group occupies on campus. One can be a conyo if you become a fixture just outside the cafeteria, a scholar if you are in Colayco Hall, a social, usually one who has made it to the soccer team, a new age goth if you are always dressed in black, who hangs in the science education complex, and woe to the naive freshman who parks himself on a bench that has been claimed by one of these groups. Third, the bangko is a mark of solidarity. Because what has it come to pass? Has it come to this, that an emblem of solidarity has now been transformed into a trademark of territoriality? For if there's something the bangko symbolizes, it is as a monument to the time when we did not have to organize joy, feign spontaneity, and calculate generosity. The time when we didn't have to pay to entertain ourselves. Actually, we pay ourselves now to bore ourselves almost to death. The time when being together became reason enough for being together, when we honestly enjoyed communal pleasures, when simple, honest fun had not yet turned into cheap gimmicks. After buying the bangko, I looked out of the car for a very long time from San Jose, Nueva Ecija to Plaridel, Bulacan. I started checking whether there were still bangkos in front of sari-sari stores along the highway. Sad to say, I only counted a few. Most sari-sari stores had upgraded to monoblock chairs. As the bangko disappears, do we also lose the sense of the social, the sense of the narrative, the sense of the communal? And as a postscript, 2 weeks after buying the bangko, stopping again at Santa Fe and waiting for my sister to finish her purchase of vegetable and fruits, I noticed that in the area once occupied by the bangko I had bought, there were 2 new orange-colored monoblock chairs. I looked at the tindera. She smiled back at me with pride. And now we will go to I think the map is very important, and the Philippine map is worn now on many t-shirts, and it's put on bags, and because it is a very good symbol. Okay, so the title is Putting the Philippines on the Map. Maps help us find our place in the world. They point out where we are, where we want to go, and who we are. Maps instruct us about our history and identity. They provide us with a memory and a destiny. Maps give us a sense of self-esteem. Our self-esteem as Filipino grows as we see our plural country, because our country is plural, the Philippines. Okay? With its many islands, 7,107, we are told when it's low tide, gradually emerging on the map. And first, so this is the outline of my talk: maps and self-esteem, the Icarian view, power, beauty, and knowledge in maps, the cartographic transaction, and we shall talk about the 1734 Philippine map, the Murillo Velarde, as the mother of Philippine maps. So we go to the first slide, please. This is the Sebastian Munster map of 1552, and we saw only the island of Puluan, which is going to be Palawan. Puluan means an island. And you notice on the right-hand corner, there is written there, Archipelago 7,448, according to Marco Polo, where the Philippines is. I don't know how he counted it. But it's still unknown. Okay. So the Philippines gradually emerges on European maps. This self-esteem further increases with the rare Ramusio Gastaldi map of 1554-1563. The Philippines is mapped first from Mindanao. And here, it's very important. This map is very important. It's an Italian map because it is the first Western document where the word Filipina appears. As we know, the Spanish expedition leader Ruy Lopez de Villalobos gave the name Filipina in 1543 to either Leyte or Samar in honor of the young crown prince Felipe, who later became Felipe II, King Felipe II. And so it's there. Vendanao, the Spaniards are putting the names as they heard it. That's why Vendanao and Siabu, that would be Cebu, Zuk, and then they even put it twice because they really don't know. Zubut and Paloban, Puluan is now Paloban there, and it's upside down. Zolo is also there. So that is the second map. Although Italy never sent expeditions to Southeast Asia, it pioneered in map making in the 16th century and acknowledged as one of the most excellent cartographers of the time. Giacomo Gastaldi, a native of Piemonte, produced 3 fine maps of Southeast Asia. And so the map already appears in 1558, in 1554, but the map that I have is 1563 because the second one perished in a fire. Okay? So, how did Filipina become present in this map, which is only 11 years? Usually, it takes 50 years before somebody puts the name on the map. After the naming of the archipelago by Villalobos. So, Filipina is given to one island and later on it's given to the whole Philippines. I think it's because the authors here, the cartographers Ramusio Gastaldi, relied on the account of Pigafetta, the companion of Magellan, and he also relied on the account of Juan Gaitan and of Ruy Lopez de Villalobos. So I think this would be, if you were looking for the first document where the word Filipina begins, this is the document. It's a very important document. Okay, the next one. The next one is by a Dutch cartographer by the name of Abraham Ortelius from 1584, and it really shows the map of China, and they only know the outline of Luzon. They do not yet know the whole form of Luzon. Okay, yeah, it's a very expensive map. But when I bought it, it was not very expensive. Okay, next map. Finally, this is another map showing by the same thing, Abraham Ortelius, and you see here the Victoria, the ship of Magellan, sailing to the left corner there, where you have the islands of the Visayas, and above it you have Japan shaped like a kite. So the people are guessing the shape of the island, and the script, the beautiful script, is influenced by the German painter Albrecht Dürer. Okay, next. Here, this is the first map where the Philippines is mapped entirely. This is a 1598 map, and you notice that it is oriented differently, right? And it's done by Petrus Carius. And already, I think we will see that already on this map of 1598, we have Padakot. Okay, already on the 1598 map. So, by the time the Carius map came out, the Philippines had already developed into a vital crossroads between Europe, the Americas, and Asia in the first globalization period. Because after 1565, the Philippines became considered the crossroads because it served as Spain's springboard to China, Japan, the Spice Islands, and the other Southeast Asian countries. These countries were linked to the Philippines by means of commercial, missionary, diplomatic, and military relations. So, Europe and Asia met in the Philippines because it's here that Mexican silver were exchanged with exotic products like silk and porcelain to the Americas. In geographical terms, Manila was not only the terminus of the Pacific trade route known as the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade, but also the launching pad between the west coast of the Americas and the east coast of South Asia. This discovery of the existence of many different worlds led to the paradoxical awareness of a single global world. Next slide. This is another version of the 1598 map by Metellus, 1601. Next slide. And another, the circle is trying to show the, you see there, Panakot. I think you can make out Panakot. Okay. Please, next slide. So it's, the maps are being copied different by different. This is again by another example of the 1598 map, 1616. So next, this is a colored version of the 1598 map of Garcia.